Yep, I'm going to start
Marisa?
recording here as well. Yep, sure, got it.
Yeah.
So just everyone
Okay,
knows that this
cool.
is recorded and it is on YouTube as well.
Right, great. Let's get going. So, welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good day. Great to have you here for the third session around understanding inequality from a systems perspective. So, I see a couple of familiar faces. So, great to see all of you here again. So, indeed, it's the third session. We kicked off with a panel discussion. Then last week we did a mapping exercise, looking at some enablers, looking at some inhibitors from different perspectives of systems inequality. And today, we're going to a bit continue and look for a couple of leverage points. But what that specifically is about, Anna will share that in a couple of minutes. So, a bit an introduction of ourselves as the host. So, we are the Singapore hub of the Systems Innovation Network, and our founders, leaders here in Singapore are Marisa and Anna. And then also we are backed up by Jackie and by Jan and myself, Wesley here as well, supporting Marisa and Anna. So that's a bit our introduction, more to come about what we did in the previous two sessions and what we're going to do now today by Anna. And first, as always, maybe a bit of a check-in. So for us, it's 5 p.m. Maybe for you, it's in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening. So how has your day been, or how did you wake up? And yeah, last time we showed a bit a different visual with a couple of figures on two buildings. Now we went a bit more natural. We went for a tree. So the mood tree, I think, as they call it. I don't know who the original originator is, but for me, it's a mood tree. So if you all could use the Zoom chat, and if you then maybe type in what's a bit your feeling now in the Zoom chat, maybe you're a one or an 8. I hope you're not a 10. Maybe there's also good 10s, maybe. Okay, so I'll give you a minute to check the mood tree, and then you can fill in the chat. So I see Fabian is a 4, looking upwards. Nice. Nirika 8, holding on to the tree. Let's see. 4 as well. For Hannah, 19. 19 who's 19 at the top of the branch, holding the branch, and the other people. Nice. Hannah, Marisa, a 4 or a 1, holding on, looking up. A 7 for Ale. So we're going up. I'm 16 today. I'm looking at all of you and I'm waving, saying hello. That's me. Rabir 8, also holding to the tree. Okay, so I'll impersonate my number 16. Clear, good. Okay, I think that's a nice check-in. So we're all checked in. We're all present here for the third session, and then I'll pass on the mic to Anna, and I'll stop sharing here, and you can start sharing, Anna.
Thank you, Wesley. It's always quite fun to kind of experience this check-in that you come up with and wonder for oneself, oh, where am I today? So I'll try to be that one on top. Yes, so today's session is the third one out of the last one. And we kicked off on the 16th of September with a very interesting panel. We had Tanuja and Marisa Kaloga and Kok Ho from Singapore. Tanuja is from New York, Marisa from New Zealand, and all of them are experts on inequality, and they shared from their different perspectives, some of them researchers and practitioners. And I hope that some of you were able to attend that session. And if you haven't, then you had a chance to also listen to the recording. We also had a special kind of extra hour with David Peter Straw, who's a quite famous thought leader on systems thinking for social innovation. And that was a really small group of kind of participants because of the time, a particular time that he could join us. but the recording is also there. So hopefully that provided enough kind of baseline and information. And just last Thursday, we did the second session that where we co-created, we mapped, we used kind of what was it? It's not a leverage points. It's called leverage points canvas, but in fact, it was more of a kind of co-creating perspectives. I think that's what we did. And if you participated, then you can recognize, some of you participated, then you can recognize, and perhaps you also had a chance to go back to it and read a little bit more. And we ended up identifying 3 how might we questions. So the challenge, we started from the challenge, systemic inequality or creating a more equitable society. And we did a number of different activities individually and in small groups and then together. The time is always short, but we do hope that everybody kind of take their time to go through all the materials or as much materials as possible in the systems innovation platform. And kind of we're all learning here individually and together. And we identified these 3 questions that have a king, how is that? Top on the stickies. And today we're going to choose one and work, dive into it a bit deeper. I think that's it for me. And kind of putting in the context again, the context is that we're all learning. We everybody expect everybody to, wherever they are, kind of read a bit and maybe learn whatever they have had, and whatever they haven't, that's okay as well. We're all here also discovering and learning together. So wherever you are in your journey on systems innovation, that's absolutely fine, and we'll do the rest together. Marisa, I think that's now
Okay.
to you.
Great. Thanks, Anna. So everyone, I've just put a link into the chat, which is the link to the Miro board. So you can all access that from your own machines. Let me just get my Miro up as well and share my screen. So as Anna summarized from the last session we actually had the 3 how might we's that we came from. Sorry, I'm just trying to share my screen here. Here we go. And if you can see that, and today we will be focusing on another part of kind of trying to synthesize what we had from the last sessions. And this is, as Anna mentioned, trying to identify leverage points to some extent. The 3 kind of post-its you see there on my screen are the 3 that we chose or that were voted from the session that were kind of the most popular based on our theme of inequality and kind of looking at it from a systemic perspective. So we've transferred those onto this part of the Miro board. And what we'd like to do firstly is to, I guess there's a small group of us, so to collectively vote on the one that we want to work on today. So again, we have the kind of democracies, the dots on the side of the screen to your left and right of the post-its. So if everyone can choose, I think just one dot today and move it to the how might we question that we'll be working on. And based on that, we'll then move forward with the rest of the exercise for today. So please feel free to take one of the dots and choose which one. Everyone gets one today. I think we had limitless last week. But yeah, we can now choose it. So how many of us are there on the call today? So then we can see who's voted finally.
Maybe I just ask if anyone is having any problems with Miro board or not very well familiar how to operate. You can send a message and I can explain. So just a side note.
Yeah, I forgot to do the tutorial. Sorry for that.
It's
And I
okay.
guess we're all very, very
Mostly, yeah, I
expert.
think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a small group who are quite regular, so but it's okay if you
So
haven't.
do we also vote, Marisa, or are we a bit
Yes, well, I'm
sparse?
voting.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm
Oh,
you're
voting.
yeah.
voting. Okay, if you're voting, then I'm voting as well. Yeah.
It's a hard choice, actually. I'm drifting
Yeah.
between those two as well.
And I was trying to get the dot on your shared screen, so maybe I also need some
Yeah, okay.
Miro introduction. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we've got, oh, okay. How many of
We
us are
need
there?
we need a golden vote or something like this. I mean, not something
Oh
given
yeah.
the final.
Oh no, we've got a tiebreaker. Anna, have you voted?
I did.
Oh,
We're
okay.
actually 11. There are 11 of us. So there should
11.
be
So we
11
have
dots.
yeah.
And if somebody is having trouble for whatever reason with connecting to the internet or accessing the board, please let us know and we can support you as much as we can. We'll do our best.
Okay. Okay.
6, 8, 9,
Two.
10. 10.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
10 voted. Okay.
Okay. So I think we have a winner now. I'm going to call time. So our winner is the one on the far right, which says, "How might we give a daily megaphone to the voiceless?" So remembering our topic of inequality, and we had a number of kind of perspectives, as Anna mentioned. So so taking those perspectives and obviously our own experience and our own knowledge, then we can obviously include some of that in our thinking today. So what we'll do is, for this first exercise, this canvas that we have, as Anna said, we're all experimenting here. You may not get the closure that you want from the sessions that we run because we only have just about an hour. So please remember that we're here to kind of learn to use the tools and think together rather than solve the problem, the systemic problem of inequality in 1 hour of our day. So with that, here's one of the canvases from the SI community. This is kind of an amalgamation of a lot of the ideas that underpin the work in systems innovation, but a lot of practitioners, leaders, thinkers, academics, authors, all kinds of people who have material on this, and this is all kind of an amalgamation of that. So some of the ideas within these canvases are captured here, and some of these kind of questions are kind of founded or kind of based on some of those ideas. So this is a canvas from the SI community, and on it we have these kind of questions or spaces. So from the old system to the illumination, to the systems gardening, to the connecting, to the pockets of the future. Now, this is actually from the leverage points, leverage points guide that we have. And this is actually based on particularly one kind of model by the Berkana Institute called the two loops model. And it really explains one kind of model of change where there's two loops, and we've put that on this on the board here, so you can see in more detail. There's two loops. So there's the top loop, which kind of looks at kind of this old system, and how underneath it there's a new system, right? And this process of a transition actually needs this in-between space of kind of hospicing. So there's this old regime looking for sort of self-preservation. It's a dominant system that's there. And as that's there and that goes up, it's also on the decline where you start to have that loop that falls down, and underneath it is this new kind of emerging part of the loop, where it's kind of got new things in it. There are pioneers, and this kind of model is what this exercise on today is based on. But it's been further broken down into the kind of questions and ideas that you see later on further down that we'll go into. Now, there isn't a huge amount of supporting material on this canvas, on this board on Miro, because obviously we can't fit it in, and the idea is not to kind of sit here and read for today. But what we'll do is after this session, we'll put a link in the chat box, and you can access a lot more material from the systems innovation community, from the website, the e-learning platform, and it's all kind of freely accessible to everyone. It's kind of open source anyway, and you can do a lot more reading there. So for today's session, we have we each have a frame, like a Miro board frame, and what we'll do is we'll spend the first 10 to 15 minutes on writing our own ideas. So it's kind of quiet time, as it were. We won't be kind of exchanging or sharing, and we can create stickies based on our own ideas from these 5 areas. And then after that, what we'll do is we'll go through each kind of question or kind of idea here, and we'll share one at a time. Whoever has something to share can share, and we'd like to hear more from each of you. And so together we'll go through it. Because it's a small group, we think it's a bit more kind of intimate, and we get to hear from everybody who wants to share. So we'll start with, you can start anywhere you like actually, but when we go through it, we'll start with the old system. So under all of these, you've got the old system, and that is where you're hospicing. You can disrupt or dampen any of the old structures. So think of all the things that are part of the old system that you might want to keep, or that you might want to change, or that you might want to kind of slowly dampen out. Then we've got kind of pockets of the future. So these are things that you see ahead, things that are coming up, things that you're seeing kind of signals, weak signals for, and are rising up. Then there are things that are perhaps in the middle of that, right, which help to bridge or connect some of these pockets of the futures and the old system. And then we have the systems gardening, which is actually towards the end of the kind of pathway or kind of loop, where people are kind of growing new patterns. So you're nurturing, you're kind of trying to help things to grow stronger, to be amplified. And then we have this other part, which is illuminating. So finding what is working and what you want to highlight, and how you want to share that with more people and proliferate that. It's quite free and easy in that sense. So we'll give you 10 minutes first. Everyone has a board. You see these boards here. You can write your names if you want, the ones with the green stickies. So on those stickies, you can write anything to do with kind of what you understand around inequality and your ideas. And this idea of giving people, kind of giving a daily megaphone to those who are voiceless. And so each person has their own board, and they can spend the first 10 minutes writing ideas, writing thoughts, writing anything that comes to your mind under the 5 topics or the 5 headings there that form this question: how might we give a daily megaphone to the voiceless? Okay. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Have I missed anything?
Marisa, can I just suggest that those who, again, have for whatever reason, trouble accessing the board or don't feel comfortable filling stickies in this way, can do it with a pen and paper, and then just put one sticky, or just tell us verbally, and we can type it in for you. Okay, that's also an option if you feel more comfortable with that.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Anna. Thanks for kind of filling that in. So any questions before we start? So the question we have is, thank you, whoever moved that. How might we give a daily megaphone to the voiceless? And then that's further kind of not broken down, but almost broken down into those different questions or ideas that you see on that one canvas. And that canvas, it has also been placed in between the kind of board, the frames that you each have for yourself. So feel free to take a frame and write your stickies, and then after 10 minutes we will start to share back. Let's see how we get on after 10 minutes. Okay, if nobody has any questions, then we'll start the 10 minutes. There are plenty of boards, so feel free to pick one and write your name or whatever.
Can I ask a quick question, Marisa?
Yes, definitely.
So the things you explained for each category, do you have it somewhere easily accessible, like a little bit more explained of each one of these 5? There
is more explanation, but it's a lot more detailed in one of the guides. So I wouldn't try not to think too seriously about it. I think I think because it's a 60, I think it's like a 50 or 60 page guide.
Oh, yeah. Maybe later.
Yeah, maybe later. But
Yeah.
underneath there's some questions in the middle central column here, and there's a little bit more kind of, there are sort of thought starter questions here. Can you see that? So how are the incumbent structures being enabled to evolve? How can we hospice them during the transition? How can we dampen down the destructive patterns, or how can we disrupt the inner structures? So in that central column, you can see a little bit more detail if that helps you to kind of start your thoughts. Does that help? Okay, great.
It helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry, I didn't mention that. So all of these have a little kind of a few thought starters there as well. And if you need to refer back to that, you please do so.
I will start the timer, Marisa.
Okay, great. And so we'll give it 10 minutes first.
Yeah. Can you hear the music? Is that okay?
Yeah, I like it.
Yes. Some nice Myro music.
Okay. And feel free to use the blue stickies that we pre-pasted there.
Yeah. And as Marisa said, in the middle, you have a bit more thought-provoking questions per step, so that you always can reflect back to give you some inspiration.
I'm going to stop my sharing, just so that everyone won't see me moving my mirror around.
And it's all about how might we give a daily megaphone to the voiceless. So we can think about the old system. So how can we dampen current patterns in the old systems? Then what are some pockets of the future that we already see today to give this voiceless a daily megaphone? And it's about illumination. So how can we illuminate a new paradigm to the old system, and we can start a bit of transition? And then it's about gardening or feeding, nurturing that transition. And at the end, it's to make connections.
Sorry, could I just add, could we not put them on the board yet? Could you keep them on your own frames first? Because what we will do is we will slowly, one at a time, place them and then kind of share more as we place them onto the board. So if you could just keep them on your frame for now, that would be great. Thank you. We have just over 1 minute for this 10-minute section. So how's everyone doing? And do we think we'll need a little bit more time?
Maybe a couple minutes for the last parts.
Okay.
Like
yeah. Okay.
Like and the bonus 2 minutes maybe.
Okay.
I can add 2 minutes. Okay, time's up.
Great, thanks everyone. Well done. So it's actually quite hard. I find it very difficult to be on on doing this and thinking at the same time. Guys, feel free to unmute yourselves. Like it's a discussion rather than us presenting in a way. I mean, we'd like everyone to kind of participate. So if you have kind of not too much background noise, and we'd love you to kind of unmute. So what we'll do now is we'll go one by one. We'll start, I guess, with the hospicing. Shall I share my screen? Actually, sorry. Let me just share this. Okay. We'll start with hospicing. And we'd like to kind of, so just as a reminder, this is like kind of the old system and thinking about what are the existing kind of incumbent structures that are kind of being enabled to evolve into something new. How can we hospice these during the transition, and how can we dampen down the destructive patterns or disrupt the inner structures? So I guess who would like to put something on there first, one of their stickies, and share more about their thoughts. Miguel, I see you have a sticky on there, but I don't see any writing.
No. No, I didn't put any sticky yet.
Oh, okay. Would you like to?
Yeah, because I have here one how can I take it? Maybe, shall I put in the, how to, I would like to take one of these, and now, how to move it now. So we have to put it in the
center, yeah.
here, yeah.
Yeah.
No, more to the bottom, so where we
sorry.
into the hospicing.
Sorry.
No worries. That's also an invitation for everybody. So if you have any Post-its you created around the current system, then you can all drag them to the center frame.
Okay, perfect.
No. And then we can have a discussion.
That is the one I put here.
Okay. Changes on leadership. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Great. Can you share more about that, Miguel?
Well, I think it's a very systemic thing we have to do in politics, in organizations. I think we have a very severe crisis on leadership all over the world. And this is something that is really influencing in our decision-making systems and the way we are running our economies and daily lives. So, to me, it's a very deep root cause of the damages or wrong things today.
And can you kind of share more? What is the current kind of leadership? What do you see that as at this moment in time?
In parliaments, in the politics, is creating a very strong polarization in societies. It's something that is really affecting our daily lives, and we can see in Europe and we can see in US, America, the leadership is really, well, the wrong leadership or the wrong rules are really affecting our daily lives, and at the end, it's affecting the economy, the organizations. It's cascading down to all the aspects in our daily lives.
Does anyone want to share kind of what they think of what does that look like? Is it about mentality? Is it about incentives? What is, do you think, driving that?
It's a lack of systemic mindset, and is really proven in the current pandemic crisis we have. So we have response, or political system have response in a very bad manner, with big delays in responses. And of course, it's the preventions, the preventive systems in the countries. We were at the end, we were not prepared for facing this kind of crisis, systemic crisis we have all over the world. And that's why our leaders are not prepared, or they don't want to face what is really happening in the people's daily life.
Okay, great, thank you. Who else would like to either respond to a point that Miguel made or to share their kind of Post-it, their sticky?
I don't mind sharing.
Cool, yeah.
I think so. I decided not to put it on the board, but it's on there now, and I completely agree. Capitalism. So the one left bottom. It's not my cluster of stickies, but I think probably for me also a big problem comes there, creating like the income gap that is increasing between countries and between different groups of people within countries. And I've been listening and reading a lot recently about kind of also the financial flows between countries. So that one of the reasons for this income gap increasing is that kind of developing countries are having they're receiving, let's say, foreign aid, but that's like 5 times less than the capital flows that are leaving the country because of let's say, exploitation of natural resources, etc. So this is also increasing kind of the government debt of developing countries. And I'm not sure if I know enough about this, but kind of canceling this debt would already kind of it's completely unrealistic now, maybe, but I think it could be, let's say, a nice dream to kind of restart a little bit and balance out some essential things, flows in the world, and in that way start maybe decreasing this social inequality. But again, it's very systemic, so I'm not sure if I'm getting to like the voices of the individual people on a daily basis yet. But yeah, that's my thinking so far.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Is we're thinking about those sort of voices of people, the individuals maybe, or the smaller, what we consider like the smaller people, us as people, individuals. But I think it's definitely a challenge to connect it back, unless you do think systemically, right? Otherwise, it's just, well, there's the government and the people at the top, and then there's the people at the bottom whose voices we're trying to hear. Okay, great. Sorry, we've got to move on because I always want to get through the other kind of topics. But hopefully for the others, we can hear from the rest of you as well. Okay. Please remember, we're not going to solve this systemic inequality in these sessions. It feels like it's such a rush, so I don't want everyone to feel like no one's had a sort of chance to get sort of deep into it. Okay, so pockets of the future. Where are the new innovations and the pockets of the future? So this is, I think, quite a difficult one. Please feel free to drop your stickies on there, and then we can kind of hear from a couple of the group if you have something that you're seeing as a pocket of the future. And why we'd like to see whoever would like to kind of share more and why you think it is a pocket of the future. Kind of share back with us. We've got some things coming over from the last one. Who would like to go? Who would like to share their sticky? Please, just feel free to share.
I'm struggling with my role. It's Fabian here.
Okay. Hi, Fabian. How can we help you?
No, it's okay. No, it's just that I'm getting used to it, and I'm just struggling moving things. That's it. It's coming now.
Great. No Sorry, worries. We normally try and do a short Miro tutorial, but one day we overlooked it. This is the only time we've overlooked it. Doing well, okay. Nadir, would you like to share? Have you managed to place a sticky?
Hi, Marisa.
Hi, Nadir. Good to see you again.
I couldn't. I always join later, and I miss the instructions, but also I cannot manage how to write on this Canvas software.
Okay.
But when it comes to this topic, I think that there is a lot of room for innovations related to the future, but we have to change our initial or immediate thinking that the pockets of future are pockets of development, because usually people are inclined to think it this way, but rather to think about the limitations of resources that we have at this all global climate crisis and demographic politics. So in that sense, we have to think about more equitable and transparent, mechanisms. So knowing that the current systems are already outdated, both internationally and nationally. So I find them incapable to deal with this complexity. On the other side, they have a lot of corporate thinking mentality, like competing and always growing by income, by whatever means, which leads to this crisis. Then inequal societies are, inequality in the societies is quite a problematic issue now. So I find it in that sense. So I don't know how to summarize, or could you catch up all the details?
Okay, no worries. Thanks for sharing it. It's hard to follow the instructions and join if you've managed to come late. But that's fine. Who else would like to share? I see some interesting one. The emergence of consumer groups to be developed.
This was me. So what I think very encouraging is that there's always been consumer groups, but they tend to sort of become more focused and on specific subjects and for smaller amount of people, and I think that's quite encouraging, as well as more and more social enterprises which start giving a value to the to the fact that they are changing things for people rather than just keep taking in profit, and it becomes more and more, as far as I can understand, more and more important in business project, or when you do a business plan that has a value, and I think that's also quite encouraging. But it could definitely be improved, because I think sometimes the human value is a kind of a gimmick. It's like with green credits; it's something they show to look good, but some people do it for real, and I think that could be improved. And also, I think people in the West always have been quite ignorant about why what they owed their wealth and their well-being to. That was basically taking advantage of poorer countries, and I think that's pretty much obvious for everybody now. And I think that's very important, because when you realize you got what you've got by exploiting other people indirectly, I think it gives some, it touches the consciousness, and it's a good engine to use to make things move ahead. So that was my 3 Post-its.
Great, thank you. Yeah, no, thanks. And I think there's definitely a historical context which a lot of us are and aren't aware of, that, like you said, have kind of got us to where we are. As a society as well, I mean, nationally and internationally. And I think Marisa touched, not me, obviously, Marisa Kaloga touched upon the kind of the opportunity for social entrepreneurship as well in one of her talks, right, where she said, I think that social entrepreneurs have a really kind of important role to be more inclusive and to bring along those who are often kind of either underrepresented or not included or seen as sort of valuable customers and problems to solve. So, okay. Should we move on to the next? Thanks, Fabian. Sorry, we've got to move on to the next one. Let's see if we have any for the next one, which is actually the gardening. Let's go with connecting. Sorry, I put these in the wrong order. Let's go with connecting. So how can we start to connect these innovations and start to create a new coherent pattern in the system? So if you would like to move your stickies onto this section here, we can then kind of share a couple here. So if you think back to the kind of loops, there's this kind of in-between space where you're, I think these are kind of technologies or innovations that can connect from one old system perhaps to a new system, or an old way of doing something to a new way of doing something. So in the context of maybe, I don't know, plastic, it might be, recycling rather than materials that are made wholly from natural materials or that don't kind of damage the environment, so we're kind of going for the in-between solutions or technologies that help us get to the newer way of thinking.
So from a logistics point of view, we're going to the last frame, the connecting one. And there we're going to...
Yeah, sorry, I hadn't switched that order. I'll zoom in a bit. Okay, what do we have? Would anyone like to volunteer, or I'll pick a sticky out, shall I? Let's see. How about... sorry, they're quite small on my screen. Transparent communication to make implicit explicit. Who wrote this?
I wrote this.
Okay.
I wrote this, sorry. I'm struggling a little bit with the sticking somewhere else than what I intended.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Do you want to... Sorry.
Transparent, so make implicit explicit. What I was thinking about actually is communication that is done by different governments. And you can see whatever it is, whether it's about new policies regarding a green economy or carbon tax or regarding COVID, you see how different governments across the world dealt with it, and then the effects of that kind of communication. And I think what's really often missing is making implicit explicit, right? You can remember in France the policy to tax I think carbon, higher prices on fuel. The idea was proposed, but then that brought about the Gilets jaunes kind of uprising, right? And I felt that the communication behind it wasn't proper, didn't bring people along, and I feel that kind of different type of communication can bring pieces together and make it allow for that connection to happen between people and government, or between organizations and different stakeholders. I think, and that feeds back into transparency, right? That's honest and transparent communication. So that was my thinking here.
Okay, thanks. And I think, I don't know if anyone else has a bit. I think we have, as citizens, been left. I mean, before the age of the internet, we have been left out of understanding a lot of policy or a lot of decisions around it. And obviously now there's so much commentary, there's social media, there's news, there's the internet. We all have. There's just hard. It's not really possible to hide as much as there was. Well, not hide, but make it less explicit, right? People are doing their own kind of investigating, and journalism is kind of, I guess, proliferating in a way that sometimes has positive effects and sometimes less positive. Who else would like to share one? Someone's put a new electronic messaging system. Who's that? Anyone want to share as a connecting?
Sorry, that's Steve.
Hi, Steve. Oh, good to see you again.
That's okay. So I was thinking about, again, the primary, giving voice to the voiceless. And I think most of these people live in the less equitable corners of society. And for a lot of they have been voiceless. They haven't had channels of communication. It's sort of been tough to get out there. I think with new technology, and you just listed a whole lot of them around social media and stuff like that, there is now an opportunity that they didn't have before to bring that voice to bear. Normally they had to find a channel that had some sort of power, whether it was a newspaper or a government official or whatever. So I think then that there are now new messaging systems or conversation systems that are out there. I duplicated the sticky, and I'm just about to fill it in with a second aspect to that, and that is what might be the coordination systems that gather together like voices. So if we're talking about, I don't know, for example, the homeless, if you're a homeless person, you were sitting there by yourself. And even if you were able to throw something out on a social media channel, that's sort of fine. But having many people in the same circumstance progressively utilising a common channel provides more power to that conversation. So some sort of coordination system, I guess, is another aspect of this as well. So anyway, they're my thoughts.
Great, thanks, Steve. Yeah, I mean, social media can do that, but as I think, was it Miguel who said earlier, obviously the polarization comes out as well. Even if there's coordination, the possibility of coordination, there's also the grand possibility of polarization that we see coming through our kind of mental activity and thoughts. Anna, you're nodding vigorously. Did you want to say anything more?
I was thinking about it. I mean, yeah, social media, and when it all started, right? Facebook was started to connect people. Let's connect. How amazing it is, indeed. You can connect people from one side of the planet on another, but it ended up being something that actually disconnects people. I fell apart from friendships and, relationship within families and all of that. So there is something else underneath it that, I mean, clear technology is powerful and empowering, but it's not sufficient element in it. That's kind of where I'm kind of thinking. I'm not sure the thought is complete yet, but that's definitely there.
But I definitely agree, Steve. I think, with all the technology, it does allow for this coordination that you're talking about, and doesn't rely upon some centralized system owning that. I mean, to some extent, yes, there's big tech and things, but more so when people have their own kind of smaller networks and connecting either as people or, as we say, kind of bridging technologies that help us move from one old way of communicating to another, or one way of kind of doing something to the other. Okay, we've got one last. Would you spend the last kind of 5 minutes or so on gardening? We won't do illuminating because we won't have time. And then I think Wesley said that everyone wanted to kind of have a more open discussion and Q&A, so we can do that. So if we want to just spend the last kind of 5 minutes on this one, let's do that. So please place your stickies on this one. So it's how can we nurture and amplify those patterns that can form into the new system. So obviously things are kind of just starting to germinate and come up, and so being able to then create the conditions that nurture those or that allow them to kind of grow and become bigger and stronger is what we're looking at. Sorry. Okay, we've got a few on here. Let's start. Let's start with, I see two that talk about kind of social bonds and human interactions. So maybe we'll start with that. Who wrote the bigger one, the one that says strengthening human interactions through projects aiming at incremental local improvements?
It's me.
Okay. Hi, Fabian again.
It's Fabian. Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I just saw something on TV recently about initiatives here in Belgium where they organize gardening centers.
Quite literally gardening.
Basically, it's social enterprises. Yeah, so literal gardening. Yeah, it's a bit of a coincidence, but so they organize that, and all sort of vulnerable people in the neighborhood have the opportunity to come there. So it's either they're financially or they're financially challenged, or they have some mental health issues, and they have the opportunity to go in those gardens to contribute to the gardening initiative. and it basically all the people involved, the ones that who were presented on the program, you can see they've gained confidence and they start expressing themselves. You can see that they've grown out of it, and I think that was a wonderful idea to sort of give people the opportunity to contribute to something, to give them confidence, and then from the confidence you get to express yourself, and you get to get closer to what you need and what you want. That's what I wanted to share.
Nice, thank you. We have a similar initiative in Singapore where, I mean, they're looking at trying to kind of encourage, marginalized people. People often homebound, have mental health issues, to come out and be able to, like you said, express themselves and become kind of part of society, like a way to integrate and participate in a meaningful way. Yeah, it's really nice. Great, thank you. Who else? Who else would like to share? Can somebody else pick one? Having a deeper deliberative democracy.
Yeah, it's me.
Hi, Miguel.
Yeah. Well, I think we need, in line with what I said, and also what Fabian said right now, I mean, we need to reinforce our conversations and our dialogue. We have to, it's also in line with the previous one, having a deeper deliberative democracy. So we have to make our conversations more fluent and our dialogues, and in order to avoid that polarization I mentioned before. But I think this is an important point as well, to stimulate the conversation, the global conversation, in a more fluent manner and normal manner, not in the way we are doing today.
I guess the question is, thank you. I guess the question is, so the new kind of pattern or the new system is more fluid, less kind of segregated, maybe, and kind of more open. Is that kind of a good way to kind of think about it? Yeah. More open, as you said. Okay, great. So I'm sorry, we have just 10 minutes left, and I think we were just going to have a general discussion. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now. Let me stop sharing. There you go, thanks. So did we have some questions that you guys wanted to ask, or anything else? Or Wesley, sorry, do you want to take the close?
Yeah, so maybe we can do these things in parallel, because I also understood from some people it's the first time maybe you're attending one of the sessions of the System Innovation Network. So if you have any questions around that, feel free to share. And then I'm going to bring everybody to me. It's not possible, so I'll share my screen. I'll do that. No worries. So at the bottom, you'll see these two fields, like the copy of the feedback and the copy of the reflections. And I see maybe a couple of Post-its from the exercise. If that is relevant for you, that's okay. But also the general question from us in terms of closing this session is, how did you find this session? And looking back at the session, was there something new for you today? Maybe an approach or an insight? Was there something surprising? Is there something in this that you want to try further? Like what Marisa was saying, we have like the SI network has this this file of 60 pages on this approach. So something you want to try, or something you missed, and then we can focus on that in the next sessions. Or another way is the one on the right side, copy of reflections. What I take with me today is, so that's also another thought provoker, that you give feedback. So whilst we are doing this, maybe you have 4 or 5 minutes to put the input here. Feel free to ask any questions.
Is this a silent moment, or can I ask now?
We're waiting for you, Nirika, to ask the question.
No,
I'm just joking. Go ahead.
definitely me reaching out to Wesley, saying that that I was new to this, or that this was my first engagement with the network. So I'm actually facilitating a lot around systems innovation, and I use a lot of the systems innovation, like the network, let's say, the videos for 1.5 years already. And just yesterday, I found out that there's like a network around this. So I'm super happy to begin with. But my concrete question was a little bit more about kind of the materials, the canvases, and also about kind of how the network interacts around these, and how you learn from each other, or maybe we learn from each other. So yeah, I was wondering, is this the right place to get a bit more of a general kind of overview of how this flows, let's say?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Marisa, go ahead.
Oh, no. All right. Thanks. How do you pronounce your name? Nurika?
Nurika. Yeah.
Nurika. Is it Dutch?
It's a Mexican name.
Ah. Nice.
From a Mexican tribe, but yeah, I'm Dutch Mexican. So.
Wow, I've never heard that combination. Cool. Thanks. Yeah. So, thanks for kind of sharing that with us. Where do we start? I'm glad you found all the material online. That's also how I came across the network as well. There's kind of three ways of interacting. One is, well, or kind of three parts of the network. One is the Systems Innovation e-learning platform, which is connecting, all the materials that you're talking about, like the guides, the videos, the YouTube videos, and a lot of other content which comes from various places. The second part is the Mighty Networks platform, which is actually a place where you can talk to people. You can find events, you can find more materials, but you can also talk to all the other people who are on the kind of platform itself, right? That's more kind of for interacting and finding other practitioners and discussing ideas. And then the third one is obviously through the hubs and the online sessions that we run. We're the Singapore hub, but there are hubs. I think there are 20 plus hubs now globally, but most of us are doing things online at the moment because of the pandemic. I think some are having a few physical meetups, but there's not that many, obviously. These are community-led kind of sessions, and we're all learning together. So there's a mix of people who are really advanced in kind of systems thinking and complexity and all the kind of theory, and they're also kind of beginners and novices and practitioners. Kind of there's a range of levels that come together. These sessions, the canvases themselves are quite experimental, I think is a good way to describe them. Whereas some tools I think have had the benefit of a lot of academic research and rigor behind them. I think there's a mix of tools here and a lot of theory underneath them. A lot of these tools are sort of canvases that are really thought starters and ways to interact and encompass and embody a lot of the ideas from various practitioners, academics, thought leaders, bodies of knowledge. Does that kind of answer your question a bit? If anyone else has anything to add, Anna, Wesley, then. Sorry, Anna, I didn't hear you.
I think you covered it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you covered everything. Say for me, I first found out these canvases, and then I stumbled, I think via a friend. He said, yeah, there's this SI networking in Singapore, so I reach out to them, and then but also for me it was first the canvases and then the network.
Yeah, because kind of thank you for sharing, by the way. Thanks a lot. A kind of follow-up question would be, because for example, 2 weeks ago, I gave a seminar in a business school in Paris, and like part of the homework were like videos by the SI network. And I'm also wondering, like, of course, I cited the source, let's say, but how are collaborations going with, for example, other, let's say, brands or networks or companies, or how does that combine? Like, yeah, I'm not sure how to ask the question differently to make it more understandable, but yeah, maybe some first thoughts on this would already be helpful.
Do you mean like if there are other organizations that are working around systems innovation how we can partner or how we are partnering.
Yeah.
Well, we're just reaching out and figuring it out as it goes in a way. For example, there's a Society for Organizational Learning in Singapore. I know there's one in France as well, and we're really keen to partner, and they're keen to partner, and we're kind of in the process of figuring out how does it look like. So there's no necessarily a recipe for it. But you can try to run events where an event where there's kind of one feeding into the other, I guess, and then seeing if there's something that can continue from there, or if there's an organization that has maybe a project that wants to put it forward, and then you can organize something around that. Yeah, just some of the ideas that we also kind of wondered and exchanged thoughts.
It's all food for thought. Everybody inspires anybody else, and that's how it's a bit. How do you say that? It's creating a bit of movement, creating a spark, and then stroking the flame, and continuing that. So I think it's in that way that we create this movement globally. It's nice to see also today, like I think where are we all calling from? We start here in Singapore, but I see people from, I think, Spain, the Netherlands, other countries. So it's very nice to see.
And sorry, it's quite contextual. Just to add to what Anna and Wesley said, it's quite contextual. Any kind of collaboration. As a network, we launched as a hub ourselves in Singapore in March this year, but we'd been working on a lot of the training and learning ourselves for the year, almost a year, 9 months to a year before that. And so, yeah, I mean, it just depends on what the opportunity is to work together. And on the platform, on the sort of Mighty Networks platform, you'll also find a bunch of other really interesting people, all really interested in systems innovation, complexity theory, and all the ideas underneath it. So those are it's not just collaboration kind of as the SI community, as an organization, even though it's a kind of decentralized organization. It's also, I mean, you find people that have got the same interests, and people post projects and things like that. So feel free to join that. There's no sort of long-term commitment or sign up in that way. It's kind of there for you to engage as you want to.
Someone
To say, sorry. Sorry.
No. Just one little thing. Someone shared on the board, wrote on the board, community-led. I think that kind of summarizes it. It's community-led.
Yeah, it is community-led.
Go ahead, Miguel. Sorry.
No, I just want to say I'm very engaged with the platform, with I'm engaged in several communities, not only here, but also in the hub in London, the hub in Stockholm.
Oh.
There is one here in Barcelona as well, not so very active so far, but hopefully there will be more activities. But it's so impressive. It's the very high quality and very, collaborative. Josh is continuously updating the platform and proposing events and updates. So it's fantastic. I fully recommend. I'm so happy to belong to that.
Oh, that's really nice to hear, Miguel. And we're glad that you've come back for more.
Yeah, of course. Try to not to miss anyone. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I mean, yeah, and actually later on, I think everyone's got a bit busy, but we have certain kind of open spaces where it's more like a social kind of like a social mixer, right? We haven't had them for a while, but they're often advertised on the Mighty Networks platform. So periodically, people just say it's an open space, and I think they're going to breakout rooms. I haven't attended one myself. Has anyone else been to one of these yet? No, okay. But yeah, you can go and join there, and meet other people in a more social setting where you're not doing anything, which is these are more kind of practicing and doing and experimenting. So if anyone has any feedback on that, as Wesley said, feel free to write it, and we can look over it. Or if you want to verbally share it now, that's cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, and a bit to looking at the time, a bit to conclude. Great to see. So some nice feedback. Thanks for that. Like the two loop model. It's indeed a very interesting one. Let's all try the canvases. That's also one of the reasons I'm here, is to learn, what kind of approaches can you do to system innovation. I'm personally coming more from systemic coaching, so that's also looking at systems, but living systems, and connecting that with system innovation is for me an interesting approach. E-learning is coming up, network, just working with some of the models. So that's great to see. So thanks for that feedback. More focus on capitalism and imperialism, colonialism systems. Yeah, that's going a bit more in depth of a certain system. Maybe that's something we could look at for the future, but I think for us it's more to present canvases, tools, frameworks, and that sparks a bit system thinking and how you can then apply that in your specific field of expertise. I don't think we want to really go in depth in one specific area, but we want just to present the breadth of opportunity here. I think that's what we try to do. And yeah, making the implicit explicit, that was also a nice one today. So let's take that home. Any other things to close, Marisa, Anna, or somebody else?
I would just say, I mean, our purpose is really to kind of proliferate and spread like this way of thinking and these tools and these ideas. And Joss, there's a lot of open sort, what we consider to be open source sort of material on the platform, on the everywhere. There's kind of lots for everyone to kind of use and share. So that's really a big driver and a big purpose for us, is to share this way of thinking and the tools and perspectives, and to learn from each other. So it's really hoping that the community does build, and we kind of balance out the way of thinking, I think, is a really good way, rather than just being one way of thinking, that this way of thinking becomes more popular and more widespread. Yeah, nothing else from me. Thank you all for coming, I guess. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, that will conclude. Thanks all for and some people. Yeah, thank you.
And look out for all the other events on the platform, on the Mighty Network platform, if you're not already on there. So hopefully you can all join and just join in any of the hubs that you want to participate in.
Yeah, see you soon.
Right.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next
Bye.
time. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Next time.